The Galactic Council chamber was silent as the hologram flickered to life. The image was grainy, filled with static, but the figure on the screen was clear. It was Captain Drelk, a hardened veteran of the Zyroth Empire, a species known for their fearless warriors. But at this moment, Drelk did not look like a warrior. His skin was pale, his eyes wide with fear, and his voice trembled as he spoke. "Do not go to Earth," he whispered. "Do not send ships. Do not wake what sleeps there." The council members exchanged confused glances. Earth, that primitive, long-abandoned world, the home of the extinct species known as humans. The idea was ridiculous. Chairman Vorn, an elder of the powerful Keltari race, leaned forward. His 4 reptilian eyes narrowed. "Captain Drelk, you are one of our finest scouts. But you claim Earth is dangerous. Explain yourself." Drelk swallowed hard. He took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. "We detected ancient energy readings from Earth, something old, something alive. We thought it was just a malfunction. But when we entered orbit, we saw things." The hologram distorted for a moment, but the terror in Drelk's voice remained. "We lost control of our systems, our ship. It was not ours anymore. It was like something was watching us, crawling inside our computers, inside our minds. We tried to send a message, but all we got was a single response, a whisper in an ancient human language. Then, the crew started screaming. They saw things that weren't there. One by one, they went mad. I had to escape. I had no choice." Silence filled the chamber. The council had heard countless war reports, but nothing like this. Admiral Kyrax, a battle-hardened leader from the Vrax Dominion, crossed his arms. "You expect us to believe that Earth, a planet that has been dead for centuries, somehow possesses an unknown force?" He scoffed. "Nonsense. If there was a threat, our probes would have detected it long ago." Drelk shook his head violently. "No, this thing, it hides. It waits. It let us think Earth was empty. But the moment we got too close, it showed us what it wanted us to see." Chairman Vorn exhaled slowly. "What did you see, Captain?" Drelk hesitated. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, he said, "I saw them." The chamber grew colder. "What do you mean?" asked Counselor Exarton, his blue-tinted skin growing paler. Drelk's breathing quickened. "Humans. Not dead. Not extinct. But changed. Watching us. Waiting. They are there, beneath the ruins. They never left. We were fools to think they were gone. They have become something else. And they are not alone." The council erupted into murmurs. Humans were supposed to be myths, their existence wiped out in an ancient war. Could it be possible that something remained? Admiral Kyrax slammed his fist on the table. "Enough of this nonsense. You were hallucinating, Captain. You abandoned your post and fled like a coward. I say we send a fleet to Earth and prove this ridiculous story wrong." Drelk's eyes widened in horror. "No, you don't understand. They let me live so I could warn you. If you send a fleet, you will not return. Earth is not abandoned. It is a graveyard, but its ghosts are still there, watching, waiting, hungering." The council remained unconvinced. They had heard many stories, but this sounded like madness. Chairman Vorn sighed. "Enough. Captain Drelk, you will be taken into custody for further questioning. As for Earth, a scouting fleet will be sent. We will determine the truth for ourselves." Drelk's heart pounded. He stepped forward, desperate. "No, do not go to Earth. You will wake something that should never be woken." Guards approached and seized him. He struggled, but it was useless. As they dragged him away, he shouted his final warning. "You have doomed us all. Earth does not fear us. It was waiting for us to return. And now, it knows you're coming." The chamber doors slammed shut. High above the Galactic Council, in the dark expanse of space, a fleet of warships turned toward Earth. They had no idea what was waiting for them. The Zyroth Empire's fleet approached Earth, their massive warships gleaming under the dim light of the distant sun. Admiral Kirax sat in his command chair, watching as the blue and green planet grew larger on the main display. It looked peaceful, silent, dead. He smirked. Captain Drelk was a fool. Kirax turned to his second-in-command, a lean, sharp-eyed officer named Toran. Scanners. Toran checked the readings. Minimal energy signatures, no signs of intelligent life. Just ruins and scattered debris. Kirax scoffed. A graveyard. Exactly what we expected. Send the first wave. Let's end this fantasy. The first wave consisted of 5 scouting ships, small and fast, designed to scan the surface for any threats. They descended into Earth's atmosphere, their pilots relaxed, confident that they were about to prove the foolish legends wrong. At first, everything was normal. They passed over ancient ruins, cities long abandoned, nature reclaiming the land. Skyscrapers stood like the bones of a long-dead beast. There were no weapons, no defenses, no signs of civilization. Then the lead pilot's voice crackled through the comms. Command. I think we have a problem." Kirax sat forward. "Report." The pilot hesitated. "Our instruments are glitching. I'm reading strange signals. It's like something is interfering with our systems." The second pilot's voice came through. "Same here. I'm picking up movement on the surface." Torin frowned. "Movement? There's no life down there." Silence. Then a third pilot, his voice shaking. "I see something." Kirax's grip on the armrest tightened. "What do you see?" The pilot's breathing was fast and erratic. Humanoid figures, standing in the ruins. Thousands of them. A deep chill settled in the command center. Kirax exchanged glances with Torin. "Impossible. There are no humans left." The pilot's voice turned desperate. "They're just standing there. Not moving. Not running. Just watching us." Then another voice, this one screaming. "Oh, Goti, why are you moving?" The transmission cut to static. Kirax stood. What just happened? Torin checked the sensors. His face paled. "Sir, all 5 ships just disappeared." Kirax's heart pounded. "What do you mean disappeared?" Torin swallowed hard. "I mean 1 second they were there. The next, they were gone. No explosion. No wreckage. No trace." The command center fell into stunned silence. Then a new sound. A whisper. Soft. Cold. Wrong. A voice, ancient and inhuman, echoed through the fleet's communication system. "You should not have come." The temperature in the control room dropped. Lights flickered. Officers shivered as an unseen force seemed to crawl into the ship itself. Kirax's hands clenched into fists. "All ships, pull back. Now." But before they could react, alarms blared. Red warning lights flashed across every screen. The fleet was no longer in control of its own systems. Something was here, something that had been waiting. And now, it had them. Panic spread across the Zyroth command center like wildfire. Red emergency lights flashed, casting eerie shadows on the metallic walls. Officers shouted over one another, their voices filled with confusion and fear. The entire fleet, hundreds of warships, each built to dominate lesser species, was now under attack by something they couldn't see, something they didn't understand. Admiral Kirax slammed his fist against the control panel. "Someone tell me what's happening." Torin struggled to control the systems. "Sir, it's like something is inside our fleet. We're losing control of our navigation, our weapons, even our life support." Kirax's blood ran cold. "That's impossible. Who is attacking us?" Silence. Then the whispers returned. "You should not have come." The chilling voice echoed through every ship in the fleet. Every officer, every soldier, every crew member heard it inside their minds. It wasn't just sound. It was something deeper, something clawing into their thoughts. And then the screens came alive. The central display, which once showed tactical maps and sensor readings, was now filled with moving images. But these were not ordinary recordings. These were memories, fragments of history that no living Zyroth had ever seen. A battlefield. Humans in old armor, wielding primitive swords and shields, fighting creatures 10 times their size. And winning. Another image. Humans in black uniforms, standing before strange machines, their faces determined, as if they knew they were about to change the galaxy forever. Then, a final image. A burning planet. Kyrax's breathing stopped. It was Earth. But it was different. It was not the quiet, abandoned world they had seen on their scanners. No, this was a planet under siege, engulfed in flames, with massive warships fighting in the skies. The battle was brutal, merciless. And yet, the humans did not beg. They did not surrender. They fought until the very last moment. And then, they vanished. The image faded. The whispers grew louder. More voices joined in, overlapping, suffocating, as if countless beings were speaking at once. You came for ghosts, but we are not gone. Torren's hands shook over the control panel. Sir, I think we just. A sharp beep interrupted him. Then another, and another. The sensors lit up, detecting movement. But not from space. From the planet. Kyrax turned toward the display, his claws digging into the metal railing. Hundreds of unknown objects were rising from Earth's surface. They moved with impossible speed, breaking through the atmosphere like missiles. No, not missiles. Ships. But these were not Zyroth ships. These were human ships. At first, they appeared as dark silhouettes. But as they neared the fleet, their details became clearer. Their hull plating was ancient, battered by time, yet intact. They bore no energy signatures, no signs of modern technology. They should not have been able to fly. And yet here they were. Hundreds of them. Thousands. Torren's voice barely came out as a whisper. They were waiting for us. Kyrax couldn't accept it. It made no sense. Humanity was gone. Erased. Their history was buried, their legacy forgotten. They could not be here. And yet, they were. A single message appeared on every screen. One sentence. The war never ended. Then, the human fleet opened fire. It was not energy weapons. It was not Zyroth technology. The Zyroth ships were designed to absorb plasma, to deflect laser-based attacks, to counter missiles with advanced tracking systems. But these weapons were something else entirely. Kyrax watched in horror as one of their cruisers shattered in an instant, not from an explosion, but as if something had reached inside it and pulled it apart from within. More ships fell. Zyroth warriors screamed as their vessels were ripped open by forces they could not understand. The human ships moved like ghosts, silent, relentless, striking from angles that should have been impossible. Kyrax grabbed Torren's shoulder. We have to retreat. Get us out of here. Torren tried, but the controls wouldn't respond. Because the Zyroth fleet was no longer in control of their own fate. Earth had lured them in. And now, Earth was not letting them leave. A nightmare unfolded in the depths of space. The mighty Zyroth fleet, which had conquered countless worlds, was now trapped. The once proud warships, each built to dominate the stars, were failing against an enemy they did not understand. The human fleet moved like ghosts. Kyrax watched as another Zyroth battleship collapsed in silence, its hull crumbling as if something had reached inside and crushed it from within. This isn't possible. Torren gasped, his hands trembling over the controls. Kyrax could barely think. Their weapons were useless. Their defenses meaningless. Their systems hijacked. He had fought many wars, but this was something else. A hunt. A slaughter. The Zyroth ships tried to run. Engines roared. Thrusters burned at maximum power, but it made no difference. The human ships blocked every escape route, moving in perfect, eerie silence. They had no energy signatures, no communications, no life readings, and yet they were very real. "Find a way out," Kyrax roared. "Now." Torrent's fingers raced over the console. "Sir, we can't. Something is jamming our systems." Kyrax snarled in frustration. "Then send a distress signal. Call the High Command." Torrent pressed the emergency transmission beacon. The screen flickered, then went black. A message appeared. "No one is coming for you." The bridge fell silent. A deep, unnatural hum filled the ship, sending chills through every Zyroth. It wasn't coming from the speakers. It was inside their heads. Then they heard it again. The whispers. "You should not have come." Kyrax gritted his teeth, shaking his head. "No, this is a trick. This is." Suddenly, the lights flickered. Torrent's eyes widened in horror. "Sir, we have something on board." Kyrax's blood ran cold. Before he could react, the alarm screamed. Intruders detected. The Zyroth warriors gripped their weapons. They had faced countless enemies before. They were trained, disciplined, ready for anything. Or so they thought. A sharp clanking noise echoed through the ship. Then another. Then footsteps. They were coming. The Zyroth aimed their weapons at the corridor, ready to unleash firepower. But when the doors slid open, nothing was there. Just darkness, silence. And then, a hand emerged from the shadows. Not a claw, not a tentacle, a human hand. And it was covered in Zyroth blood. The nearest soldier screamed, opening fire. Blinding plasma bolts lit up the corridor, but hit nothing. Then, in the blink of an eye, the lights died. The ship plunged into complete darkness. Kyrax heard the screams of his warriors. Gunfire erupted, but it was useless. Something was inside the ship, moving too fast to see. One by one, his soldiers fell. Their shrieks of terror echoed in the blackness. And then, silence. A single word whispered in the void. "Run." The lights flashed back on, and Kyrax saw what was left of his crew. Bodies floated in zero gravity, their lifeless eyes frozen in horror. Blood drifted like mist. Torrent, still shaking, stared at the carnage. Sir." Kyrax felt something he had never felt before. Pure, overwhelming fear. The humans were not gone. They had never left. And now, they were coming for all of them. Kyrax had seen many battlefields, but nothing like this. He stood frozen on the bridge, staring at the silent horror that unfolded before him. His elite warriors, the strongest of the Zyroth, lay lifeless in the air. Some were missing limbs. Others had expressions of pure terror carved into their frozen faces. And the worst part, no alarms had gone off. No intruder had been seen. No shots had even been fired. It was as if something had hunted them in absolute silence, killing them with no mercy, no hesitation, and no struggle. Torrent was the only officer left standing. He was still at his station, trembling. His fingers hovered over the controls, but he didn't move. His large Zyroth eyes stared at the black void outside the ship, where the human fleet floated like ghosts. "Sir," Torrent's voice was barely a whisper. What are they?" Kyrax did not answer. He didn't know. The humans were supposed to be myths, a species wiped out long ago, nothing more than legends whispered to scare children. But they were real. And they were watching. A faint ping echoed across the bridge. A new message appeared on the main screen. Kyrax turned, his eyes narrowing. It was from the human fleet. A single line of text. "We remember what you did." Kyrax felt his breath stop. Torrent swallowed hard. Sir, they remember. The Zyroth had invaded thousands of worlds. They had erased countless species. But humanity, that had been over 1,000 cycles ago. How could anyone remember? Unless they had never died. A deep rumbling suddenly vibrated through the ship. Kyrax snapped his head toward the controls. What was that? Torin frantically scanned the systems. I don't know, sir. It's like something is inside the ship's core. Another vibration. Then another. The ship shook violently. Then the lights flickered. A voice, cold and emotionless, spoke through the ship's speakers. You took everything from us. Kyrax's claws dug into the console. Who are you? No response, only a deep, low hum, like something ancient and furious was waking up. Torin gasped. Sir, the ship's eye. It's not responding. Something is overriding it. Kyrax's heart pounded. By whom? The answer came immediately. A new message flashed onto every screen. We are humanity. A terrible screech ripped through the ship as the engines died instantly. Kyrax and Torin stumbled as artificial gravity failed. The emergency lights turned blood red, casting eerie shadows across the bridge. And then, the doors to the bridge slid open. Kyrax turned just in time to see them. Humans. Real humans. They stood in the doorway, their bodies covered in sleek black armor that seemed to absorb the light. Their helmets had no visible eyes, only a single glowing red line across their faces. And in their hands, they held weapons unlike anything the Zyroth had ever seen. The Zyroth general's instincts screamed at him to run, to fight, to do anything. But he could not move. Because Kyrax was no longer in control. The human in the center tilted their head slightly. Then, in a voice so cold it felt like death itself, they spoke. It's time to finish what you started. Before Kyrax could react, a blinding flash of light erupted across the bridge. And everything went black. Kyrax woke up in darkness. His head throbbed. His body felt heavy, like something was pressing him down. He tried to move, but his limbs wouldn't respond. A deep chill ran through him. He was restrained. The Zyroth warlord blinked rapidly, trying to adjust his vision. His surroundings were cold, silent, unfamiliar. A dim red light pulsed from the ceiling, revealing the metal walls of a prison cell. This was impossible. He was Kyrax, conqueror of the outer systems, general of the Zyroth Armada. He had commanded fleets that had burned entire civilizations to the ground. And now, he was a prisoner. A low hiss echoed from the door ahead. Kyrax stiffened. The doors slid open silently, revealing the single human figure. The same dark armor, the same red glowing visor, the same presence of absolute control. The human stepped forward, their movements calm, deliberate, unshaken. Kyrax's instincts screamed at him to attack, to fight, to do something, but he couldn't move. The restraints held him tight. The human spoke, their voice calm but merciless. You fear Earth, but not for the reason you should. Kyrax's jaw clenched. What are you? The human didn't answer immediately. Instead, they raised their hand, and a holographic display appeared in the air. Kyrax's blood ran cold. The screen showed ancient records, Zyroth records, files that had been locked away for centuries. He recognized them instantly. They were the historical logs of the war against Earth. But one log, one classified report, made his breath catch in his throat. It was labeled, Project Revenant, the last stand of humanity. Kyrax's mind spun. How did they have this? This report had been buried deep in the Zyroth archives. It was something even he had never been allowed to see in full. The human tilted their head slightly. You never wondered why you never found Earth's survivors. Kyrax narrowed his eyes. Because they were destroyed. The human gave a small, cold chuckle. No, that's what you were led to believe. The screen shifted, showing grainy footage from over 1,000 cycles ago. It showed Earth's final days, but it was different from the history Kyrax had been taught. There were no desperate humans begging for mercy. There were no broken survivors fleeing into the void. Instead, the footage showed something far worse. The last human ships didn't run. They vanished. Hundreds of Earth's warships disappeared into deep space, taking their people, their weapons, their secrets with them. And the final message recorded from humanity. It was simple. We will return. Kyrax felt his entire body stiffen. No, this couldn't be real. But deep down, he knew the truth. Humanity had never been wiped out. They had been waiting. And now, they were back. The human warrior stepped closer, their glowing visor just inches from Kyrax's face. Your empire is already falling. You just don't know it yet. Kyrax felt a wave of cold fear grip him. For the first time in his life, he understood. The Zyroth had feared Earth's weapons. They had feared Earth's soldiers. But what they should have feared was something else entirely. The patience of humanity. The wrath of those who remember. The return of the forgotten legends. And it was too late to stop them. Kyrax had fought in 1,000 battles. He had conquered entire worlds, crushed rebellions, and executed enemies without hesitation. But he had never known fear like this. The truth was now unavoidable. Humanity had never been destroyed. They had disappeared, waiting in the shadows, hiding in places beyond the reach of the Zyroth Empire. And now, they were back. The human warrior in front of him didn't need to say another word. The holographic screen flickered off, and the cell door sealed shut again. Kyrax sat in the cold darkness, his mind racing. Outside, alarms blared through the Zyroth warship. The fleet was under attack. In orbit above the Zyroth homeworld, chaos erupted. Thousands of ships descended from the void, emerging from hidden slip space tunnels that had gone undetected. Massive warships, sleek, dark, unlike anything seen before, cut through the fleet with merciless precision. The Zyroth admirals barked desperate orders, but their fleets were already falling apart. Weapons that had never been seen before tore through their strongest shields as if they were paper. Beams of silent, eerie energy carved through the Zyroth capital ships, bypassing every known defense. The Zyroth's fleet, once thought invincible, was being shattered. And then the transmissions began. Across the entire empire, every Zyroth communication channel was hijacked. A single symbol appeared on every screen, an old insignia long forgotten. The symbol of Earth. A voice followed. Calm, cold, unstoppable. We remember everything. You thought we were a myth. Now, your empire will be the myth. On the surface of the Zyroth homeworld, panic spread like wildfire. Cities burned as human drop pods rained from the sky, each carrying a single soldier, but these soldiers were unlike anything the Zyroth had ever faced. They moved like ghosts, their armor shifting with adaptive camouflage. They struck with impossible precision, using weapons that seemed to bend the very laws of physics. Entire battalions of Zyroth warriors fell in minutes. Zyroth commanders tried to retreat, but there was nowhere to run. The humans had already cut off all escape routes. Deep inside the Zyroth palace, the Emperor stood frozen. His advisors screamed for orders, but he had none to give. This wasn't a war. This was a reckoning. And then the walls shook. The grand doors shattered inward, and a single human figure stepped forward. Their armor was black as the void, their visor glowing the deep crimson. They said nothing at first. They only looked upon the Zyroth Emperor, the one who had once ordered the extinction of Earth. The Emperor clenched his fists. We are an empire. We have ruled for centuries. The human finally spoke. Not anymore. The final shot rang out. And with it, the Zyroth Empire was no more. Across the galaxy, word spread. The great Zyroth fleet had been annihilated. Their homeworld burned. The species that once ruled the stars had fallen overnight, and the name whispered in the dark. Humanity. The forgotten legends. The myth that turned out to be real. And now, the galaxy knew the truth. They hadn't feared Earth because of its weapons. They had feared Earth because of its patience. Because when humanity decides to strike back, nothing survives.